the platform. Roon as the product is a software product that we sell on a subscription basis. So we sell it for $10 a month that we bill annually, or $4.99 US for a lifetime subscription. That's completely separate to Nucleus. That's just what Roon is. Someone earlier today asked the question, why did you do it that way? Why do you have a lifetime? What if you guys go bust in 5 years, whatever? The reason we have the lifetime subscription is because our customers demanded it. They asked for it. Really, we designed the business on the subscription model because it forces us to stay in active development all the time. And we have to earn that $120 every year, because if someone else comes along and does it better, you're going to cut over to them. So it kind of keeps us, it's a very honest business model in that respect. Some people are not comfortable with the idea of software as a service or the subscription model, so we do have the lifetime license, but anyway, so they're both available. But what we see very often is that people come on for a year or 2 years and say, now I'm going to buy a lifetime. This is silly. So I like to think all indications are that we've been earning our keep up until now. And as I told the gentleman earlier, our intention is to keep doing that, of course. Basically, so when I say Roon runs on a PC or on a Nucleus, for example, that thing that's running we call the Roon core. It's like the brain. You only need one for your whole house. It's per one of those. So you can have all your phones and tablets and whatever, those don't cost anything. So what we say is basically all the software is free, and you need a subscription to run it basically in a house. That's kind of how it works. If you have 2 homes, that's a different story. One of the things that we've noticed in a lot of multi-room products is that they address the requirements for being able to do things in multiple rooms. Roon has profiles for different users. So I have a profile, my wife has a profile, each of our kids has a profile. There's me, there's my wife, there are 3 kids. We each have our own playlists, we each have our own favorites, we each have our own play history. Which means when Roon is being clever and playing a playlist for me, generating a playlist for me based on my listening habits, I'm not getting my kids' music mixed into that, right? So everyone can kind of manage their own world a little bit. So if I pick up the iPad Pro that we have sitting in the living room, the first thing I do is make sure that it knows it's me before I start favoriting things or playing things or whatever. So Roon has this multi-user kind of capability to it. Each of those profiles, this is really nerdy, but can scrobble to Last.fm accounts and do all that stuff. It's all specific to the user profile.
Right.
Actually, I should talk about that, because multi-room is, I can see even Sonos in their marketing literature tries to explain this concept. Multi-room, the idea, there's a couple of features. One is that you can play different content in all the different zones, right? The other, and this is tricky in our world, is that you have to be able to group those zones so you can play multiple zones in sync, right? So if you have Roon-ready devices, like some of the ones I mentioned, those will always play synchronized. But because of crazy protocol limitations, we can't currently sync a Roon-ready device with a Sonos, for example. But that would be like a DCS and a Sonos, which is just 2 strange things to try to sync together. But Roon cannot do that today. So I just want to be clear about that. Across those protocols, you can't sync an AirPlay device to a Chromecast, because they just speak such different protocols that we're not capable of managing the synchronization well enough.
No.
But you could take 2 Chromecast devices and sync them perfectly.
Right.
So
there's
So
but that's not a limitation with you guys, is it? It's just the way they write languages and
Earlier this year, we shipped our MQA core decoder. So if you're familiar with the way MQA works, there are 2 stages to the decode process. There's what they call the core decode, or the core decode, or the first unfold. That takes it from 44, 48K up to 88 or 96. Roon does that today. And what's cool about that is that you could have a legacy DAC, a DAC that's not MQA capable, and you can still get 96K MQA decode and stream it straight to that DAC at 96, which is great. You're getting a big part of the MQA value proposition on a DAC that doesn't even do MQA. So that's that's cool on the one level. There is the second unfold, which is called the render. That can't be done as a matter of MQA policy in software, so we can't do that piece. So that can only be done by an MQA capable device. And the good news is there are a growing number of those.
Yeah.
So an AudioQuest Dragonfly, for example, won't do a decode, but it can do the render. So there are lots of devices out there, lots of different MQA configurations. Now, for a device, I'm getting maybe into too much detail here. If you have a Mytek Brooklyn DAC, for example, that does the whole shebang of MQA, Roon, because that's in our specification, in our database, Roon will say, oh wait, there's a DAC that knows what it's doing. I'm just going to give it the raw PCM and let it do the decode, because it's almost certainly more efficient to do it in hardware than it is for us to do it in software. So there's a negotiation between Roon and every endpoint about how best to do that.
Right.
So all this data that I've showed you, I told you this comes from the cloud, but what happens is, what Roon is doing is saying, here's this music collection. I need all the information that I can get about it from the Roon cloud service. But then that's all stored locally, which is why this all feels fast. It doesn't feel like you're browsing the web. It's all very instantaneous. Because all that data lives locally. In this case, it's on my laptop, but at my house, it's on the Nucleus. So there is a database being built locally on that device of everything that Roon knows about me and my music and my listening habits and my favorites and my playlists and all that stuff. That's a database. If that disappears, it's kind of a drag because you kind of start from zero. So Roon allows you to back up that database in a variety of ways. You can back it up to your NAS, you can back it up to a thumb drive, you can back it up to Dropbox. And this, again, I haven't set up to Dropbox, which is why I forget to talk about the feature, because, again, I've forgotten that it's there. My database gets backed up every day, and I don't know about it. I don't think about it. But that's another very cool feature. So if my Nucleus blows up, the procedure is get a new one, put it in its place, tell it I'm me, and I'm done. So it's a bit like replacing a phone these days, right? We designed it in that same kind of way. That, yes, there's a lot of data stored locally, but we've got a copy of it, and everything's cool, and as long as you remember your password, you get the whole shebang.
It's a bit like iCloud, I guess, is it?
Yes. And typically, the database, aside from any ripped files, how large would that be?
It scales with library size, and it doesn't scale linearly. What happens is that early on, we generally say it's something like, I'm trying to think of my own collection and give you an idea. I have probably 5 terabytes of music, which is probably about 10,000 albums, and that's probably around 10 gigabytes of database size.
Right. So not massive then.
It's not so big that you can't comfortably put it on Dropbox.
Yes,
You know, I mean, it's a substantial amount of data.
Yeah,
And what happens is that over time, once you get into crazy large collections, you get a lot of repetition between artists and performers and whatever, so the database doesn't grow as fast as you get further out. But it's a manageable amount.
Yeah.